For at least 3 generations, the Madrigal family has protected the magical valley of Encanto that was created when the family, along with several other villagers, were on the run from a group of marauding bandits. The Madrigal family does this via an assortment of magical powers. However, there is one exception to this magical family. 15-year-old granddaughter Mirabella Sojos did not receive any magical gifts. After Mirabella's cousin Antonio is bestowed the gift ability to communicate with animals, Mirabella herself winds up getting frozen out of the family picture. This couple, with the continued negligence of her own grandmother, has caused her to begin to lash out. However, this suddenly causes everything to go wonky. The magical abilities start disappearing and vanishing. The magical Encanto household is beginning to fall apart. To try to figure out what exactly role she is playing in this, Mirabella must seek out her estranged uncle Bruno, a doomsayer who fled the family after too many prophecies just went awry. However, Mirabella might need to find out that the greatest threat to the Encanto might not be from without, it might be from within. This is Encanto. So, yeah, I hope that made enough sense. It took me a few takes to get that right. This movie, it should be a lot better than it is, unfortunately. Like, there's a lot of things that work. I think the cast works, the animation is good, the musical numbers are all right. It's just, the story itself explores some unique ideas, except it just it didn't quite click with me, and I don't know why. I think one has to do with the pacing. The pacing is just horrendous in this. I'm sorry. Like, you get the idea that, Mirabella goes out to look for her uncle, and she's, like, going out into the valley, into the great wide world, but no, this is all, like, within the parameters of the Encanto estate, basically. Or the Casaita, I can't remember the exact term they had for the house, but, this all happens pretty much the same place. The idea that even the idea that the family suddenly starts losing all their powers really doesn't happen right away. Like, only a couple do, and then it starts spiraling out of control slowly, and it's then that starts kind of, like, again, it's just the pacing of the movie. That's the best way I can describe this. It's like, what I describe, the big inciting incident that finally gets the plot rolling doesn't happen until almost 40 minutes into the movie. And that's because we have 2 really big musical numbers that happen. Mirabella has one. One is kind of funny because it's Mirabella singing about all the powers her family has, and when the other villagers try to question her, what's her gift? She's like, well, my sister does this, and my cousins do this, and my aunt and uncle do this, and da-da-da-da. And it's like, but what about you? And it's like she just keeps singing about everyone else, and that kind of gets funny, but then it kind of it goes on a little too long. And then, later, Mirabella's sister Louisa, who is the super strong one, has a song about being super strong but emotionally weak. But that one also kind of goes on a little too long. Like, they're a little too potted out, and they don't really get the plot moving that much, unfortunately. They make everything grind to a halt for these musical numbers, and it doesn't quite work within a musical narrative flow. And when you have Lin-Manuel Miranda working on this, you think he would know something about how to insert songs into a musical. So, yeah, it's like the plot just comes across really, really clunky and slowly. And again, once things finally start happening, it still gets really clunky and slow. It's just, it's like, ugh. There are these points where it's like you just want to stop and say, get the plot done. Like, move to the next plot point. Like, everyone knows she needs to go looking for Bruno. Have her start looking for Bruno. And it kind of, ugh. And that's what really kind of, that's what just stuck with me. And I think that's what, it just made it feel really off. It kept me from getting fully into this picture. I mean, there were things I really wanted to like this picture. It really explores some unique ideas because basically, I'm going to get a little bit into the plot, which is, again, Mirabella's grandfather, Pedro, was helping her grandmother, the triplets that they had were her mother, aunt, and uncle, Bruno being the only boy. And they, they're trying to get away from I don't know who the evil guys necessarily are, but they're in Colombia, so You could probably make some type of analogy there, but yeah, they're trying to flee this village that's being overrun and burned down, and they're trying to get to safety. And Pedro basically winds up sacrificing himself, but you know they were lighting away with a small candle, and this candle suddenly starts glowing, and it's what starts to bestow the magic that creates the Encanto Valley for this village to live in safety, and starts bestowing the magical gifts first on the triplets and then on their children, with the lone exception being Mirabella. And I think it goes to when they're supposed to be, you know, 9 or 10. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, they're supposed to. And you get things like Mirabella's aunt can affect the weather with her mood. The uncles who marry, the uncle and father don't have powers, just the mothers do. And her mother can heal people with food. And her cousin, she has two sisters, the aforementioned Louisa, who's super strong, and Isabella, who's perfect in every way and can make flowers grow. And I'm still trying to figure out what that power exactly means. But and then she has her cousins. One can shapeshift, and the other can hear every sound. And yeah, Dolores is the one who can hear every sound. I can't remember what the cousin who shapeshifts is. And then her youngest cousin is Antonio, who can talk to animals. And you know, when Mirabella is going through the ceremony to get her gift, you're supposed to touch this magical doorknob that appears, and it's supposed to enlighten you and open a door to show something. But when she touched it, the door just kind of crumbled to dust and vanished, and so she doesn't get any powers, and they're not sure as to what's going on. And you know, it's kind of from there that, you know, when she starts lashing out, and suddenly, yeah, and again, it's the idea that this has disappointed the grandmother, and the grandmother keeps saying, like, oh, you know, you get the idea that the grandmother is very judgmental and very disappointed that Mirabella didn't get any powers, but she doesn't really show it, but she shows it, if that makes any sense. Like, they're preparing for the big ceremony for Antonio, and Mirabella keeps kind of goofing up and getting in the way, and the grandmother basically says, stand aside, you know, just don't bother anyone, just kind of stay in your room. And, you know, just stay out of this, because there's nothing you can do. You can see, like, you know, again, a family picture is taken, and Mirabella is a part of the family. You know, she's standing in the background, and that's when she starts to notice the house is falling apart. And, you know, even the grandmother secretly admits, unknowingly to Mirabella, that the magic is dying, and something is going on with it. And it's the idea of the family all kind of have an inferiority complex, because they gotten these powers, and the grandmother, because of what happened to the grandfather, is very protective and saying, we have to work for the betterment of people, you have to do these things, you have to do this and this and this and act a certain way. That the family itself, like I said, they're having these kind of niggling doubts that are starting to creep through, and it's affecting the house, even the house that they live in. And Bruno saw this and ran away. Well, he didn't run away. He actually lives in the crawl. Turns out he actually lives in the crawl space of the house. And you know, the house has actually been falling apart for some time, and he's been secretly patching it up to try to keep it together. I hope this is all making sense. I'm sorry. I'm trying not to narrate the whole plot here. But again, it's the idea of the grandmother's demands and the inferiority complexes that come from having these powers. Like, you know, we're doing these great things, but, you know, Louisa is super strong but emotionally weak. Isabella is perfect in every way and can make flowers grow and strike the perfect pose and is amazingly beautiful, but she's also kind of snobby and self-obsessed because, you know, she's doing things that her grandmother wants, but she's not doing things that she wants to do. And, you know, the grandmother's arranged for this marriage, but it turns out, you know, Isabella isn't even in love with the guy. Dolores has actually been in love with the guy for some time, the one who can superhero, but because Isabella is sort of the preferred grandchild, you know, she gets the pick. And you start to get, yeah, so that's the idea, is the magic falling apart is the self-doubts that's coming in because of all the pressure the grandmother's been putting on this. So, yeah, the grandmother is effectively the villain. And that is a unique angle, but they just don't address it very well. It's like, it's one of those, only a couple people actually try to take the grandmother's side and say, hey, maybe try to be gentle on Mirabella. Like, she didn't get these powers, but you're basically, chastising her and kicking her out of the family, whether you're doing it subconsciously or not, because of the way you act around her. Instead of taking her aside and saying, listen, I don't, hold this against the fact that you didn't get the powers against you, but until we figure out what's going on, you need to kind of maybe stand aside and let the other family do what they can, rather than, just constantly belittling her. And I don't think belittling is the best term, but you see, that's the idea. I think that's a really unique idea to explore, a kind of stage/sports parent mentality in a family like that. Unfortunately, like I said, it just doesn't work because of the poor pacing of this movie and the musical numbers that kind of cause the plot to grind to a halt rather than advance it. So, yeah, like I said, I really wanted to like Encanto. It's not a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination. It is not a terrible movie. If you watch it, you will most likely have fun, but I can't quite give it the full-on recommendation. I am going to give Encanto a C. It's just, unfortunately, a little too average for its own good. It should have been way better than it was.
It's time to get away from the everyday. Go Goya.
Goya beans. Add them to soups and stews and fill your home with warmth. For better meals, turn to Goya.
Go Goya.
Okay, trailer time. And we had mostly new trailers and one kind of weird one I just kind of popped into my mind as I was watching it. Now, I came into my movie a little bit late. Showtime started at 4:05. I didn't quite get into there till about 10 after 4, so I only caught one of the trailers partway through, and that was the League of Super Pets movie, the Crypto the Superdog and Friends thing with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, the new animated DC movie. After that, we had Turning Red, the Disney Pixar movie about the teenage girl who turns into a giant red panda. Then we had Lightyear, the Buzz Lightyear prequel. Then we had Minions, The Rise of Gru, which is a movie I honestly thought it would come out. I know it got delayed like everything else did last year, but I thought it came out this year. Apparently it hasn't. It's still, I think it's coming out next month. Then we had Sing 2, and after that, that was the end of the trailers. We did have a short film with this, a little 2D animated feature called Far From the Tree about a raccoon parent and child, I would say. The child is goofing off, and you see the father trying to, or I keep saying father, the parent raccoon trying to keep the young raccoon in line. You see that the parental raccoon has some scars, like a notch in his ear, a big scratch over the eye. The tail is very frayed, and you kind of see some of that, everything that happens. I won't get too far into the description, but it was a very nice little short. I think it's definitely a little bit of be careful what you do, but also understand that, sometimes when the parents yell at you and stuff like that, it's out of the best interest. It's not because they hold ill will towards you. In fact, I think it told its story much better than Encanto did. Anyway, the next video, not the next movie, the next video is going to be on the first 2 episodes of Hawkeye. Yes, I know they're on Disney Plus right now. I have not yet watched them. I'll try to see if I can get that up by Saturday or Sunday. I'm not entirely sure. And then after that, it will be the random trade review on Legion of Superheroes. Sorry, Legion of Superheroes Teenage Revolution. And then after that, NXT War Games. Yes, I haven't forgotten about War Games, obviously. I didn't mention it in the last video, but that was just kind of me being really tired. Anyway, see you all next time. Hey guys, remember, you can help support my channel at patreon.com/sleepytimeforcat productions, where you can help request a movie, even if it's something like, say, Sonic the Hedgehog or the next Purge film. I'll review it.